Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. The name she shouldn't have known. The heart monitor beeped in steady rhythm, until suddenly it didn't. Dr. Elias Ford froze mid-step as the patient's eyes fluttered. He had spent nearly 3 months treating the silent woman in room 217, feeding her, checking vitals, changing dressings no one thought she could feel. She was labeled non-responsive. But now, her eyelids quivered like a trapped bird's wings. He turned cautiously. She lay perfectly still. Maybe it was nothing, then her lips moved, barely audible. A single word, a name. Elias. The tray in his hands crashed to the floor. Saline bottles shattered. His heart dropped into the pit of his stomach. No. Audrey's was supposed to know his name. He backed up, staring at her pale face. Her features were unchanged, fragile, untouched by time. She looked like the kind of woman who once wore expensive heels and never had to lift her own glass of wine. But now, months into a coma, her voice had cracked open a secret he hadn't shared with anyone in this hospital. He stumbled out of the room, almost tripping over the spilled supplies, and slammed into the hallway wall. Across from him, nurse. Candace looked up. "You okay?" She said my name." Candace frowned. "What?" "She just said it. My name. How does she even know it?" "That's not possible. You've never met her before the accident, right?" Elias didn't answer, because the truth was, he wasn't sure anymore. That night, Elias didn't go home. He sat in the empty staff lounge with the lights off, staring at her file. Her name was listed as Vivian Harrow. Age, 39. Status, widowed. No children. She'd been found unconscious at the base of her estate's marble staircase 3 months ago. No signs of forced entry, no witnesses, and no foul play officially recorded. But one thing always bothered him. There were bruises on her upper arms, faint but there, and the staircase railing was too low for a fall like that. He'd asked questions, gotten silence. Her lawyer had shut down any talk of abuse or police reports, and the hospital director had warned him not to get too involved. But now, she had spoken his name, and he knew, without a doubt, he had never met Vivian Harrow. Or had he? The next morning, he walked into room 217 early, before rounds. Her eyes were still closed, but something was different. Her breathing had changed, deeper, more aware. "Vivian," he said softly. No response. He leaned in. "Did you mean to say my name?" Suddenly, her hand twitched. Not random, not reflex. A deliberate movement. Elias reached for the call button, but then paused. Something in his gut told him, "Don't tell anyone yet." Instead, he placed his hand over hers, and again, just barely, her lips moved. This time, 2 words came out. "Don't trust." He froze. "Don't trust who?" he whispered. But she slipped back into silence. Later that day, Elias pulled up old news articles. He found a photo of Vivian from a charity gala years ago, draped in emeralds, standing beside her late husband, Gregory Harrow, a man once accused of white-collar fraud, but never convicted. Then something odd caught his eye. A blurred figure. In the background of one photo, a waiter, short beard, lean build, grey-blue eyes, his own face. He zoomed in, heart pounding. It was him. 10 years ago, he had no memory of ever being there. He ran to the basement archives, pulled out staff logs, patient charts, anything from that time. Nothing until he found a faded file marked Emergency Room, April 2015. The patient? Unidentified male, blunt force trauma, memory loss suspected, no photo, but notes mentioned. Grey-blue eyes, mid-30s, no ID found. Elias felt like the ground beneath him tilted. Was it possible? Had he been that patient? Had he been at her house before? Had someone erased his past? He went back to room 217, breath unsteady. He needed answers. Vivian's eyes were open this time, wide open and filled with terror. As he stepped closer, she whispered again, "He's watching us. Still." Elias turned. Someone stood at the door. Not a doctor, not a nurse, a man in a suit, with dead eyes. The man gave Elias a small smile. "I see she's awake," he said calmly. "That changes everything." The man stepped inside the room without permission, as if it belonged to him. His shoes clicked against the tiles, slow and measured. His eyes, cold and unreadable, locked with Elias's. "I'm Mr. Crane," the man said. "Vivian's legal guardian. Temporary, of course." "There's no such designation on her chart," Elias said, regaining his voice. Mr. Crane smiled. "There's a lot not on that chart." Vivian's breathing sped up. Her fingers trembled against the bed. Elias instinctively moved between her and the stranger. "She needs rest. This isn't a visiting hour." Crane's gaze dropped to Vivian, then back to Elias. "Dr. Ford, you seem emotionally invested." "I'm her physician." "Of course, but tell me, how long have you really known her?" Elias didn't answer, because a seed of doubt had already been planted in his mind. Crane turned to leave, but paused at the doorway. "I'll be in touch. Don't make any sudden decisions or memories." That night, Elias couldn't sleep. He stared at his bathroom mirror, half expecting his reflection to shift into someone he didn't recognize. What if he had known Vivian? What if everything, his job, his clean records, his normal life, was built on a lie? What if he had been made to forget? He opened an old, dust-covered box under his bed. Inside, a watch with initials he didn't recognize, a ring he'd never worn, and a crumpled photograph of Vivian in a garden, smiling and standing next to him. They looked like a couple. The next morning, Vivian was awake again, this time fully conscious. She was alert but afraid. Her eyes darted around the room like she was expecting someone to burst in at any second. "Vivian," Elias whispered, "do you remember me?" She nodded, barely. "You said not to trust someone." "Who?" She opened her mouth, then closed it again. "I don't know who you are now," she said finally, voice hoarse. "But before, you saved me once." "From what?" "From him." "Crane." She didn't answer. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Before." "The staircase. Before I fell," she whispered. "We tried to run. We planned it together, but they caught us." "They who?" Again, she shut down. But Elias saw something new in her expression now. Hope. That afternoon, Elias received a call on the hospital landline. An anonymous voice. She was never supposed to wake up. He slammed the phone down, heart racing. He went back to room 217. Vivian was gone. He ran to the nurse's station. "Where is she?" The nurse frowned. "Transferred. Private facility. Her lawyer authorized it." "No, she's not safe." The nurse shrugged. "Paperwork signed. They took her 15 minutes ago." Elias rushed outside to the loading bay. A black van was just turning out of the parking lot, and through the tinted glass, he saw her face. She was awake and screaming, but no one could hear her. The vanishing file rain battered the hospital windows as Dr. Elias Ford stood frozen at the loading dock, watching the black van disappear into the downpour. His hands trembled, heart pounding so loudly it felt like it echoed through the concrete walls. She had screamed. Vivian was awake, alert, and terrified. That van wasn't transport. It was extraction, and he had let her go. Elias stormed back inside, dripping wet, ignoring the questioning glances from the nurses. He made a straight line for the administration office. The transfer couldn't have been approved through normal channels. Not without his signature or oversight. Someone had forced this through. He burst into Director Lanning's office without knocking. "What the hell happened to Vivian Harrow?" he demanded. Lanning looked up from his desk, startled but not apologetic. "Dr. Ford, you're out of line." She was taken from her room, screaming. That wasn't a patient transfer, that was a kidnapping. Lanning sighed, sliding a paper across his desk. Her legal representative authorized the transfer to a private neurological facility. Everything signed and sealed. Elias scanned the document, bile rising in his throat. The signature at the bottom wasn't hers. It was Crane's. The same snake who had stood in her room the day before, like he owned the place. "She spoke my name," Elias said. "She was awake. You didn't even notify me. I'm her primary physician, and that's the problem," Lanning said flatly. "You're too close. You're emotionally compromised. I'm trying to protect her." "From what, doctor? The hospital she was moved to is better staffed, better equipped. You should be relieved." But Elias saw the truth in Lanning's eyes. He knew, and he was afraid. "I'm not letting this go," Elias said through clenched teeth. "You'll be suspended if you step out of line again," Lanning warned. "Walk away from this, Elias, for your own sake." Back in his office, Elias sat in silence. He opened Vivian's medical file on the hospital system, but found nothing. "File not found." His stomach dropped. He typed her patient ID. Nothing. Every record, every note he had made for 3 months, gone. Someone had erased her. He called it. They claimed there was never a patient by that name. Then came the knock. He opened the door to find Nurse Candice holding a small envelope. "This was slipped under the nurse's station counter," she said, confused. "It had your name on it." Inside, a photo, Vivian, sitting on a bench in what looked like a garden, written on the back in shaky ink. "You remembered once. You can do it again." There was no sender. That night, Elias couldn't sleep. Instead, he dug deeper. Into himself. He stood in front of the bathroom mirror and stared at the scar on his left temple. He'd always thought it came from a childhood bike accident. But what if it didn't? What if the man in that 2015 ER file, the one with blunt force trauma and memory loss, was him? His hands trembled as he opened the old box again. The ring, the photo, the watch, and this time he saw it, engraved inside the band of the ring. "Yours always, V. Vivian." The walls began to spin. He sat down hard on the floor, gripping the ring like it was an anchor. Was he her husband, a lover, an accomplice, or something darker? The next morning he called a friend, Jax, a former PI who now ran quiet investigations for people the system failed. "I need to find someone," Elias said. "She was transferred out of here under a false order. Her name's Vivian Harrow." There was a pause. "That name's familiar," Jack said. "Wait, wasn't she the woman who nearly testified in the Harrow estate scandal?" Elias's blood chilled. "What scandal?" "Years ago. Her late husband, Gregory, was connected to some underground laundering ring, offshore accounts, shell corporations. Some big names went down. But his wife vanished right before she was set to testify. Everyone thought it was hush money or worse. But she was found at the base of her stairs." "Yeah, but maybe someone made it look like a fall." Elias's voice was low. "Find her before they make her disappear again." 2 days passed. No news. No sign of Vivian. Then Elias found something, tucked inside a dusty folder from an old storage room he was never supposed to access. A patient file labeled VH Backup, hidden deep among archived Coma case studies. He flipped through it. There were daily notes, but they weren't his. They were written in his handwriting. He staggered back. The entries were dated 6 months before she ever arrived in his ward. Lines like, "Vivian remains unresponsive. Night terrors reported during REM. Do not mention Crane. Causes heart spikes. She whispers names in sleep. One of them is mine." He dropped the folder, heart thudding in his throat. He had treated her before, but no one had told him. They had erased his memory once, and maybe they were about to try again. Jax finally called. I found the facility. She's not in a hospital. Elias, where is she? She's being held at a private estate in the outskirts of Milton Cove. Not registered. No medical oversight, just private security. And guess who runs it? Crane. Bingo. Elias, this is bigger than a patient case. You're on the radar of some serious people. I'm going to her. Then I'm going with you. You won't get past the gate alone. They drove that night. Rain pelted the windshield like bullets. The estate came into view after miles of nothing. Secluded, steel-fenced, no visible entrances. Guards with earpieces patrolled the front. We can't go in through the gate, Jack said. We'd get arrested or worse. I'm not leaving without her. There's a creek on the side, Jack said. Feeds into the back garden. If we follow it upstream, we can get behind the greenhouse wing. I'll take it. You distract the front guards. Jax hesitated. You're not the same man I met last week. Elias looked him in the eye. Maybe I never was. Mud soaked his shoes. Branches scraped his skin. Elias crawled through the underbrush until the dark outline of the estate loomed in front of him. The back garden was wild, overgrown, like no one had stepped there in years, except someone had footprints. He followed them to a side door, unlocked. Carefully, silently, he slipped inside. The corridor was dim, humming with quiet power. He moved through it like he'd walked it before, because maybe once he had. Room 5B. The number came to him like a whisper. He pushed open the door. And there she was. Vivian, awake, eyes wide, but strapped to a hospital bed. Elias. She gasped. He ran to her, yanking off the restraints. You came back, she whispered. I never should have left. Suddenly, voices in the hallway. Footsteps, they were coming. Vivian grabbed his hand. We have to go now before he finds you again. Elias pulled her to her feet. She staggered, weak but determined. The footsteps grew louder. Then a voice. Welcome. Back, Elias, Crane said calmly. You remember now, don't you? Elias turned toward the voice, shielding Vivian behind him. Crane stepped out of the shadows. But you still don't know the full truth, he said, smiling. And then he added, it wasn't an accident that you lost your memory. She did it. Crane's words hit Elias like a bullet to the chest. It wasn't an accident that you lost your memory. She did it. For a moment the world stopped. The rain outside pounded harder, as if it too couldn't believe what it had just heard. Elias instinctively tightened his grip on Vivian's wrist. She didn't pull away, but she didn't speak either. Crane stepped into the light, calm as ever, hands clasped behind his back like he was hosting a dinner party. I thought you deserved the truth before you made another mistake. Shall we talk, Elias? Or are you going to run off into the night again, confused and half-informed? Vivian's voice trembled. Don't listen to him. He's trying to break you, just like he tried to break me. Crane's eyes twinkled. Is that what you told him, Viv? That I'm the villain in your little fairy tale? Should we tell him what really happened in Geneva? Elias's mind reeled. Geneva. Vivian stiffened. Crane smiled wider. She didn't tell you about that part? Ah, the secrets between lovers, so poetic. Shut up, Elias snapped, stepping between them. Tell me what you meant about her erasing my memory. Crane tilted his head. Do you really think head trauma alone could have wiped a man like you clean? You were too dangerous to forget who you were by accident. She made sure of it. For love, she claimed. But let's call it what it was. Control. Vivian whispered, That's not true. Then tell him, darling, Crane said, eyes locked on her. Tell him how you begged me for the serum. Said he was slipping too deep into the old ways. Said he'd kill again if someone didn't stop him. Elias turned slowly toward her. Vivian was pale. Elias, I did what I had to. You were spiraling after the fire, after you found out about your sister. My sister? Elias whispered, voice barely audible. What about my sister? Crane answered first. She didn't die in a car crash. She was murdered. You found the man. You made him confess, and then... No. Vivian stepped forward. He's twisting it. You didn't kill that man. You nearly did, but I stopped you. You were lost in vengeance. I was afraid for you. I begged Crane for help. I developed a neuro-blocker, Crane said smugly. Prototype, dangerous but effective. One dose erased years. You forgot your sister's death. The revenge. Me and her. Elias stared at them both. So my entire identity was rewritten because you thought I couldn't handle grief. Vivian's voice cracked. Because I couldn't lose you too. His heart cracked down the center. You took my pain, Vivian. But you also took my truth. Behind them a siren blared. Security breach alert. More footsteps. Red lights began flashing down the hall. Crane adjusted his jacket. We'll talk again. I'm sure of it. He slipped into the shadows and vanished down a corridor. Before Elias could react, Vivian grabbed Elias's arm. We need to go now. They escaped out the side greenhouse as Jax roared up in an old SUV, tires screeching in the mud. The guards hadn't seen them, yet. But it was only a matter of minutes before someone noticed room 5B was empty. Elias shoved the door open and helped Vivian into the back seat. You got her. Jax yelled. Drive, Elias shouted, slamming the door behind them. They tore off into the night, leaving the estate and Crane behind. For now. They reached Jax's safe house an hour later, an old mechanic shop converted into a 2-room hideout. Outside city limits, inside dim lights cast long shadows. Rain hammered the roof. Vivian sat in a blanket, silent. Elias paced the floor. You need to tell me everything, Elias said finally, voice cold. Start with my sister. Vivian looked up, tears clinging to her lashes. Her name was Calla. She was 26, a junior reporter. The name hit Elias like a thunderclap. A door inside him creaked open. She stumbled on a story, Vivian continued. Illegal medical trials funded by elite donors. Crane was one of them. So was Gregory, my husband at the time. Elias sank into a chair, breathing ragged. She tried to expose them, Vivian said, eyes burning. 3 days later she was dead, car brake failure. But you knew it wasn't an accident. You found evidence. You found the driver. He confessed to working for Crane, Elias muttered, fragments flashing in his mind. You beat him within an inch of his life, Vivian said. You were never the same after that. You quit your practice. You disappeared for months. Then one day you showed up at my door, saying you were going to burn it all down. Elias rubbed his temples. Why didn't I? Because I stopped. You, Vivian whispered. I told you revenge would consume you, that I'd already lost Gregory to corruption, and I wouldn't lose you to rage. You begged me to help you forget. No, he said, staring at her. You said you did it to protect me. Now you're saying I asked for it. She met his gaze. Both are true. The next morning, Elias watched her sleep on the small cot in the corner of the garage, blanket curled around her shoulders. She looked fragile, but the woman in his fragmented memories was steel. She was the only one who'd stood between him and total collapse. Jax entered quietly with 2 coffees. She's telling the truth, he said. I dug around. That reporter, Calla Ford, was working on something big. She filed a complaint against Crane's research group 6 weeks before her crash. And guess what? That complaint's gone from every record, like it never existed. Elias sipped the bitter coffee. Crane erased her, just like he tried to erase Vivian and me. I also found something else, Jack said, pulling out a thin drive. Security footage from a fire at a lab in Switzerland. 5 years ago, the building was destroyed. They never found the arsonist. But one survivor claimed he saw a man pulling out classified files, then vanishing into the woods. He clicked the laptop. A grainy image appeared. It was Elias. Burn marks on his jacket, blood on his hand. holding Vivian's hand as they ran. From the building, Elias watched in stunned silence. "You two were already fighting this fight," Jack said. "Long before this coma, long before the hospital." He paused. "So the question is, what now?" Vivian stirred awake. Her voice was soft but sure. "We don't run. We end it." Elias looked at her. "How?" "Crane's endgame is still the same," she said. "He's launching something, another trial. But this time it's sanctioned by a fake front, the Lyric Institute. You get the files. I testify. We bring it all down." "And if he silences us first?" Vivian's eyes burned. "Then we make noise faster." That night, Elias broke into the medical records board under a false ID Jax had secured. He found the Lyric Institute on the database, buried beneath layers of fake credentials. But in one internal memo, he found a chilling phrase. Phase 3, Adaptive Erasure Trials, begin June 10th. June 10th, 6 days from now. They weren't just trying to silence people. They were building a system that could erase memories on command, permanently. Vivian had warned him, "What they did to you, that was only the beginning," as he backed. Out of the system, a file appeared that shouldn't have been there. A live feed, Crane speaking directly into the camera. "I know you're watching, Elias. I always admired your persistence. But if you come after me again, you won't just forget who you are." Crane leaned forward. "You'll forget why you ever cared." The screen went black. Elias turned to Jax and Vivian. "It's now or never. If he wins, the world forgets." Elias stared at the blank screen long after Crane's chilling message faded. "You'll forget why you ever cared." The words weren't just a threat, they were a promise. Crane wasn't hiding anymore. He wanted Elias to know what was coming. Jax slammed his fist on the table. "That psycho is taunting you like it's a game." Vivian stood still, arms crossed tightly over her chest. "It is a game, one he's been playing for years. Every time we got close, he wiped us clean." Elias turned to her slowly. "How many others has he done this to?" Vivian's eyes darkened. "Dozens, maybe more, anyone who stood in the way. Scientists, whistleblowers, journalists, even test subjects who grew a conscience. He buried them all in silence." Jax pulled up the decrypted files. The Lyric Institute's Phase 3 trial isn't just about memory erasure anymore. They're calling it adaptive moral correction, targeted removal of emotional triggers, trauma, guilt, empathy, all wiped. What he did to you was personal. What he's doing now is industrial. Elias leaned forward, knuckles white. He's building soldiers, puppets, people who follow orders because they don't remember why they shouldn't. Vivian nodded. "And the first public demo? It's happening in 6 days. Jax handed Elias a flash drive. "All the proof we have is on here. Testimonies, funding links, altered records. If we leak this to the right people, he'll bury it." Elias cut in. "The press won't touch it without someone credible stepping forward. Someone from the inside." Vivian met his eyes. "That's me." Elias stared at her. "If you testify, he'll destroy you." She didn't blink. He already tried. He failed. That night, the rain came down in waves, masking the sound of their engine as they pulled into the gravel lot outside the abandoned courthouse. This place had once been the site of a corruption hearing against Crane's pharmaceutical partners, a hearing that mysteriously collapsed when 3 key witnesses suddenly lost all memory of their involvement. Vivian walked through the halls like a ghost returning to the place she died. In the main chamber, Jax set up a temporary data rig. "We'll broadcast a live statement using the court's old emergency feed. It's still connected to 3 government servers with a delay of 5 seconds. If Crane tries to kill the stream, we'll already be out." Vivian sat in the center of the chamber. Elias handed her a mic. His fingers brushed hers. "You sure about this?" Vivian smiled faintly. "I've been scared for a long time. But tonight, I feel something else. What? Ready? The camera light blinked red. Vivienne began to speak. My name is Dr. Vivienne Rael. I was once part of the Lyric Institute's research division. I'm here to confess to the world and to myself. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed the weight of her words. For years, I helped develop memory alteration protocols under the guidance of Dr. Malcolm Crane. What began as trauma therapy soon spiraled into something far darker. We erased whistleblowers, silenced victims, turned human beings into obedient shadows. She paused, breath catching. One of those victims was a man I loved. He had lost his sister to a conspiracy Crane helped fund. When he fought back, I, out of fear and love, agreed to wipe his memory. I told myself it was mercy, but it was betrayal. Elias stood behind the camera, fists clenched. Vivienne continued, "This is my statement of guilt, my warning, and my promise. I will testify, I will name names, and if I disappear after this broadcast, let that be proof of everything I've said." Jax hit the send button. The signal was out. Vivienne looked at Elias. Her hands trembled, but her eyes were fierce. "It's done." "No," Elias said. "It's just starting," but Crane was faster than any of them expected. 3 hours later, the news cycle exploded, but not with Vivienne's testimony. A pre-recorded statement from Crane was aired across all major networks, calling the broadcast a deepfake attack launched by radical anarchists. He played clips of Vivienne, heavily doctored, claiming she was mentally unstable and suffering from paranoid delusions after a failed relationship and a professional scandal. Photos of Elias were leaked, half of them real, showing him he bloodied after the Geneva fire, the rest faked, showing him attacking patients at a hospital. One even claimed he assaulted Vivienne during an argument, twisting their relationship into a deranged obsession. Vivienne stared at the screen in horror. He turned the truth into a lie before the truth even had a chance. Elias's jaw locked. "He framed me and discredited you." Jax yanked the laptop shut. "They just killed our only shot at going public." "No," Elias said slowly. "They just gave us a new one." He turned to Vivienne. "Where's Crane's next trial being held?" Vivienne swallowed. "A remote facility, former psychiatric hospital, turned lab, forest compound. Almost impossible to infiltrate. I've broken into worse," Elias said. "And this time, I'm not leaving with a flash drive. I'm leaving with Crane." They reached the compound on the 5th night. Storm clouds rolled in behind them like an omen. Jax parked 3 miles out. Elias and Vivienne hiked through the woods in silence. "This was your plan," Elias whispered. "5 years ago, you wanted to expose him from the inside." "I wanted justice," she said, "but I was scared, so I ran." Elias touched her shoulder. "You're here now." As they approached the outer fence, a sensor light flickered. Elias ducked, pulling Vivienne with him. He used a wire cutter to snap a gap in the fence, slid through, then helped her over. Inside, the facility loomed. Grey stone walls and shattered windows. Cameras spun slowly on automated cycles. Guards patrolled with weapons. Jax's voice crackled in their earpiece. "You've got a 10-minute window before the backup patrol sweeps the East Wing. Crane's in Lab 3, lower level." Elias and Vivienne slipped past 2 guards and down a stairwell. At the bottom, they reached a steel door with a retina scanner. Vivienne stepped forward. "Let me." She pressed her eye to the scanner. The light blinked green. The door hissed open. Inside, Lab 3 was a sterile nightmare. White lights, humming machines, vials of pale blue liquid. In the center stood Crane, calm, waiting. "I knew you'd come, Elias," he said, turning slowly. "You always had a hero complex." Elias aimed a stolen pistol at him. "It's not heroism, it's payback." "Then shoot," Crane smiled. "Right here, end it." Elias hesitated. Crane took a step forward. You won't do it, because you still don't know who you are. You think removing me will bring back your sister, your past, your peace. But it won't. You were broken before I found you. Vivian stepped beside Elias. No, he was broken because of you. Crane turned to her. And you were supposed to lead this next phase. You were brilliant, Vivian, but you fell in love with a patient, a problem. Crane tapped a nearby terminal. Footage filled the wall. Memories Elias had never seen. Him begging Vivian to make it stop. Screaming, collapsing in her arms. You wanted to forget, Crane said softly, and she gave you what you asked. 4. Elias lowered the gun slightly. Vivian touched his arm. Don't let him twist it again. You may have wanted peace, but not like this. Not with lies, Crane smirked. Then come with me, both of you. I'll show you what we've built, what we can fix. No more pain, no more guilt. Vivian took a slow breath, then turned and smashed the vial table with her elbow. Glass exploded. Crane lunged forward. Too late. Elias grabbed him, twisted his arm, and slammed him to the ground. You won't take anything else from us, Crane snarled. You think exposing me will stop this? I've already passed the formula on. You kill me, and someone worse takes my place. Elias dragged him to the terminal. Then give us the names, the funding routes, the passwords, or I make you forget everything. He lifted a syringe, one of Crane's own memory wipes. Crane's eyes went wide. You wouldn't. Elias's hand didn't shake. You did it to me. They left the lab 40 minutes later with 2 hard drives, 6 vials of classified chemical. Evidence, and Crane slumped unconscious between them. As they reached the outer gate, a floodlight exploded on. Dozens of guards aimed their weapons. Crane's backup had arrived early. Elias shoved Vivian behind him, raising the gun. Jax's voice crackled through the earpiece. Hold on, I've got a way out. But Elias knew there wasn't time. He looked at Vivian. Run! She shook her head. Not without you. He smiled, then whispered, Tell my sister. I remembered. He turned, ready to fire, when suddenly a deafening explosion ripped. Through the far wall, guards scattered. A black van peeled through the hole. Jax hung out the side door, waving. Move! Elias dragged Crane as Vivian sprinted. Bullets tore through the air. Elias dove into the van last, crashing over Crane's unconscious body. The van roared into the night. Inside, Elias was shaking. Vivian leaned against him. We did it, she whispered. He looked at her, but before he could answer, Crane opened his eyes, smiling. I told you, you can't kill what's already inside you. Everything you forgot was hiding the truth. Elias had only a second to register the look in Crane's eyes before the man lunged. In the jostling back of the van, Crane's movements were swift, almost inhuman. His hands shot up, grabbing the edge of a cabinet behind Jax and yanking it down with violent force. Metal crunched. The van swerved. Jax shouted, He's loose! Elias slammed his forearm into Crane's neck, pinning him to the floor. Vivian fumbled for the syringe still tucked in her coat, Crane's own memory suppressant. But Crane laughed through the pressure on his windpipe. You think this ends with me unconscious in your van? He rasped. You've already lost. I left a back door in your minds. The moment you remember too much... He choked as Elias applied. More pressure. Shut up, Elias growled. But the damage had begun. Something flickered in his vision, an image. A little girl screaming, his sister. But this time, it wasn't the version he'd seen before. This time she was looking right at him, pleading. You promised you wouldn't forget me. The van hit a bump. Elias lost grip for half a second just. Long enough for Crane to twist out, slam his elbow into Vivian's side, and dive toward the rear doors. Vivian cried out as she hit the wall. Jax swerved again, tires screeching. Crane reached for the latch. Elias lunged, but the doors burst. Open. Crane leapt into the night. No! Elias screamed. The van fishtailed as Jack slammed the brakes. They screeched to a stop. Rain poured down, blinding them as Elias jumped out, gun raised, scanning the forest. Nothing. Crane had vanished into the trees. Damn it! Jax paced by the roadside as dawn crept over the hills. We had him. Everything we needed. Vivian winced as she clutched her ribs. He didn't run because he was afraid. He ran because he wanted us to follow. Elias hadn't spoken since they got back. In the van, he stood still, staring into the foggy woods, lost in thought. But not just thought, memory. The images were bleeding back in. His sister, a locked room, the sound of machines humming. He touched his temple. His hands were shaking. Vivian noticed. She stepped close. Elias? He turned, eyes haunted. He didn't just take my memories. He gave me new ones, replaced things, altered timelines. Jax frowned. You think some of what you remember now wasn't even real? Elias nodded slowly. Which means, Vivian whispered, we don't know what's truth anymore. Back at their safe house, Elias opened one of the vials they'd taken from Crane's lab. The liquid shimmered like liquid glass. This is what he used to control memory reconsolidation, Vivian explained. When someone's memory starts coming back, this forces the brain to overwrite it with whatever suggestion is inserted during administration. Jax whistled. So basically drug someone, talk them through a new truth, and their brain rewrites it as fact? Vivian nodded. Exactly. And he used it on me, Elias said quietly. More than once. He opened the laptop and plugged in one of the hard drives. Images of test subjects appeared, some restrained, some crying, others eerily calm. Each file labeled with initials, dates, injection types. Then he saw it. Subject ERH. Date 5 years ago. Procedure, sequential memory restructure. Codename Shadow Anchor. Elias clicked. Video began to play. A younger Elias sat strapped to a chair. His eyes were glassy. Crane stood over him. You'll forget her name, Crane said. You'll forget what she meant to you. She's dead now. There's nothing to go back for. Elias on-screen mumbled something. Crane leaned in. What was that? On-screen, Elias whispered. I remember a name. Crane's expression darkened. Shh, let it go. She's gone. The video skipped. A woman's voice, Vivian's, spoke, softly off camera. Elias, I promise this is for your peace. And then silence. The real Elias stood, face drained of all color. Vivian looked up at him, heart in her throat. I tried to stop him, she said. I fought him, but I was afraid. Elias turned away. Jax tried to interrupt, but Elias held up a hand. You let him erase her, he said. And me. Vivian stepped forward. And I came back for you. I gave up everything to try to fix it. He didn't respond. Instead, he looked down at the syringe still on the table, the last vial of the memory suppressant. I need to know everything, he said. All of it. The truth, no matter what it costs. Vivian stepped in front of him. You can't just inject yourself. It's unstable. You need controlled recall therapy, guidance, support. But Elias had already picked up the needle. I've lived in someone else's story long enough. He pushed the plunger. The effect was almost immediate. He collapsed backward into the couch, seizing, teeth clenched. Vivian rushed to his side. He's going into recall shock. Jax grabbed the medkit. What do we do? Vivian bit her lip. We guide him before his mind breaks itself apart. She grabbed Elias's hand. Elias, focus on my voice. Focus on her. Your sister. What do you see? Elias's head thrashed side to side. Locked room, he muttered. She's not dead. Vivian leaned in. Where is she? She screamed, begged, said my name. Then Crane said she'd ruin everything. His eyes snapped open. She wasn't the victim. She was the key. In a storm of fragmented memories, pieces clicked into place. Crane hadn't killed his sister. He used her. She had developed a rare form of resistance to memory drugs, something the Institute hadn't seen before. Instead of forgetting, she remembered more vividly. She began to recall not only her own life, but brief fragments of others around her. She became dangerous. Crane isolated her, locked her away, and told Elias she was dead, to force him into obedience. Vivian's. A voice broke through again. "Elias, where is she now?" he gasped, sitting upright. The North Haven facility, it wasn't just for testing, it was a vault for subjects too valuable to kill. He grabbed the keys. "We're going there. Now." The road to North Haven was jagged with memory and mist. By the time they arrived, night had fallen again. The building loomed like a mausoleum, cold stone and steel buried deep in the cliffs. They moved in silence. Jax hacked the gate. Vivian bypassed the biometric locks. Elias followed the hallway. His dreams had burned into his mind. Finally, they reached Chamber 9. He hesitated. Vivian touched his back. "Whatever you find, I need to find her," he said. He opened the door. Inside, on a padded bed, was a girl in her early 20s, thin, pale, monitored. Her eyes fluttered at the sudden light. Elias stepped closer. "Lena." Her eyes slowly turned to him. She whispered, "You remembered me." He fell to his knees. She reached for his hand, and the moment their fingers touched, every memory came crashing back. The fire, the betrayal, her screams, his promise. "I tried to keep you safe," he said, voice breaking. She smiled faintly. "You came back." Behind them, Vivian covered her mouth. Jax turned away, blinking hard. Then the monitors beeped faster. Vivian stepped forward. "Her vitals are spiking," Lena gasped. "He's still here, Crane. He never left this place. He's watching." The lights flickered. Alarms began to sound. Elias stood, turning toward the door. "Then it's time we finish this." The name that changed everything. The emergency lights bathed the hallway in blood-red pulses. Elias gripped Lena's hand tightly, refusing to let go. She was weak, but her voice had clarity now. Every word anchoring Elias deeper into the truth. He had spent years trying to uncover. "He's here," she whispered again. Crane never left North Haven. Jax peered down the corridor, weapon drawn. Then he's either hiding or waiting. Vivian placed her hand gently on Lena's forehead, checking her pulse. Her body's weak. She was kept in suspended sedation for too long. Elias looked between them. "We're not leaving her behind, but I need to know what Crane's endgame is." Lena opened her eyes again. Her voice trembled. "You don't understand. You were part of it, Elias. You were the prototype." He froze. "What are you talking about?" "I wasn't just kept here because I remembered things. I was kept here because I remembered you. The original project, Project Shadow Anchor, wasn't about erasing memories. It was about building new people from them." Vivian stepped closer, heart pounding. "Oh my God, that's why Crane was so obsessed with you. He didn't want you dead. He wanted to finish your programming." Lena nodded, eyes welling. "You weren't just tested on. You were being turned into something unbreakable. A weapon, a vessel of someone else's design." Elias stumbled backward. The memories, his training, the disjointed timelines, the haunting sense of always chasing ghosts finally made sense. He had never truly known who he was, because someone else had been writing him. "I'm not just Elias," he whispered. "I'm a story Crane built." "No," Lena said firmly, gripping his hand. "You are my brother. The real Elias died in that program. But you survived it, and you made your own choices. You became Elias not because of them, but despite them." Suddenly, a new voice echoed through the building's speakers. Low, calm, too familiar, touching reunion. But if you think sentiment will save you now, you've forgotten what I taught you. Crane. He was watching. Doors began locking around them, a mechanical hiss followed by the screech of metal gates dropping into place. They were being funneled, guided. Jax gritted his teeth. He's herding us, wants us in one place. Vivian helped Elias lift Lena into a wheelchair. Then let's give him what he wants. They followed the only lit hallway, which led downward into what the schematics once labeled the cortex chamber. Vivian whispered as they moved. This was where they tested high-level emotional triggers. Crane used it to push subjects to their psychological limits. Jax glanced around the chamber, glass walls, rotating lights, and dozens of hanging monitors. In the center, a lone chair, and beside it, Crane, older now, face more hollow, but the eyes burned with the same cold intelligence. I see you made it, he said. Elias stepped forward. We're ending this. No more tests, no more lies. Crane smirked. Still clinging to your little fantasy of free. Will, adorable, but you've never been free, Elias. Every step you've taken, even defying me, was written into your design. You're wrong, Elias said. I chose to come back for her. Crane gestured around. Then prove it. Sit in the chair. Let's finish your sequence. Vivian stepped forward, gun raised. You think we're going to let you finish your experiment? I think, Crane said calmly, you're all already part of it. Suddenly alarms screamed. The chamber doors slammed shut behind them. Crane pressed a button. Monitors flickered to life, showing images from each of their pasts. Vivian's betrayal in the lab, Jax's erased childhood, Lena's imprisonment, Elias's synthetic memories. Crane smiled. You want truth? Sit down. Let the system complete the merge. Elias turned to Lena. I don't know who I'll be after this, he said. You'll still be my brother, she said through tears. But you'll be whole. He sat. Crane began the sequence. Lights flashed as neural data flooded the monitors. Elias's mind raced, fragments colliding, memories crashing in, rewriting one another. He saw his mother's face, his first love, the scream of war, the cold eyes of a younger Crane calling him Subject Zero. He remembered watching his real sister die. Then he remembered saving her. Both versions existed now. Parallel tracks fused in him. Crane's voice echoed, You are nothing but memory wrapped in skin. But then another voice pierced through, Lena's. You are memory, but the memories you choose to keep, that's what makes you real. Suddenly, Elias reached into the machine's interface, reversing the data flow. Alarms exploded. Crane shouted, What are you doing? I'm rewriting it, Elias said. My way. The chamber lights burst. Glass shattered. Crane tried to shut it down, but Jax tackled him. Vivian rushed to pull Elias from the chair, sparks raining around them. Elias gasped as he awoke. Ike, remember everything, he said, and just as Crane reached for his gun, Elias shot first. Crane collapsed, breathing hard, bloody, his final words. You were always just my experiment. Elias stood over him. Then this is the final result. Crane's eyes faded. They left North Haven at dawn. Lena, now recovering, sat beside Elias in the van. Jax drove, and Vivian watched the sky shift from darkness to gold. Nobody spoke for a while, not because there was nothing to say, but because everything had already been said in the language of survival, of memory, of blood and truth. Later, on a quiet hill far from the facility, Elias stood over a small, unmarked grave. The real Elias, the boy who had died in that program, was buried there years ago under a false name. He lit a candle. For both of us, he whispered. Lena came up beside him. You didn't just become him. You became better. Elias looked at her. Do you think I'm real now? She smiled. You're more real than anyone Crane ever created. Vivian joined them. I uploaded the files, she said, to every major journalist and agency. Everything Crane did. It's all out. What will happen now? Jax asked. Vivian took a breath. Chaos, reform, truth. Elias finally looked at his reflection in the car window. He didn't just see the man from the mirror. He saw the boy who died, the memories, the lies, the rage, the healing. He saw everything. I was created to forget, he said, but I chose to remember. Final line. Sometimes remembering who you are means burning down everything that tried to make you forget. The end.